All right, so here we are. We're rolling, we're recording. And Kathy, are you there? Say hello. All right, let's get started. Don't mind my clicks here. Okay. Yes, let's get started. Kathy will join us by video pretty soon as she is there. Anyway, thank you all for making it to our training, A Secret to Entrepreneurial Success, Core Values Assessment Training. Thank you all so much for making it. My name is Anna. I'm sure I've met some of you for sure. Some of your names are very new to me, so welcome. My name is Anna. You've probably seen my emails inviting you and making sure that you get the links and all that good stuff. Welcome. I am a team member and the content architect for Booming Group, and I'll be your co-host today alongside Kathy. Hello, Kathy. Can you say hello? She's there somewhere.
Hi, Anna.
Oh, yes, there she is. Hi, Kathy. Perfect. So Kathy is a fellow team member and also the business architect for Booming Group. Kathy and I both have had the honor of attending one of Peter's workshops in the past, or a few rather, and also this same CVI training. And we're both really excited to be part of it too, because we also have questions, more questions about the core values assessment. And we'll just be asking them along with the group. So if at any time you have any questions, feel free to ask those using your chat feature. So thank you. Before we do begin, I wanted to give a special word out about the sponsor for these free trainings. It is through Booming Group that we're able to share our bank of expert knowledge through these monthly trainings. And I'm just going to go ahead and read something real quickly about what Booming Group is. We're here also to meet the community and let the community know what we're about. And so I'll read something very briefly. Booming Group is a business ecosystem and non-traditional investment company committed to empowering leaders and business owners transition from business as usual to business as a natural mechanism to deliver impact, purpose, and profit, all while building community, promoting sustainability, and adding value for the benefit of all. We have a few entities within Booming Group, Booming Collective, which is our community and hub for ongoing education and development. We have Booming Creative, our creative agency. And you may have read some articles on the Booming magazine, but it is essentially a compilation of our entrepreneurs' journey. We are bringing this training on because we believe in the importance of aligning values to our work and ultimately figuring out how we can best contribute. And you're here probably because you want to know more about what motivates you into action, or maybe you just wanted to check us out. All is good and all is great. And we understand that this was promoted to a lot of the business owners and entrepreneurs in our community, but this training really is applicable to anyone who's interested in learning more about that thing that makes all of us leap into action. Kathy, did you want to say anything before I introduce Peter? I wanted to go over some house rules before we begin here briefly, but just wanted to see if you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, no, so thank you for attending this training. The only thing that I would like to add is that for us here in Booming Group, when we were introduced to this training, was a very helpful tool to know not just like where we as an individual can contribute to in our business or in our organization, but as well like how we organize our teams, and to make sure that all our like colleagues, co-workers, partners, that we are assigning the roles and responsibilities that are designed to be. So I just wanted to add that, and thank you, Anna, and thank you, Peter, for being here.
Yes, yes, thank you. So just a few house rules. I think I mentioned how to ask questions. Just feel free to ask your questions through the chat feature at the bottom, and you can address that to the panelists. And feel free to ask at any time. And either Kathy or I will interrupt. We'll interrupt Peter at any moment. Also, you all know that you should have taken the CVI assessment prior to this training. If not, that's all good. We'll send it to you after. We'll make sure you get it after. Just make sure you communicate to us about that, and we'll make sure that you have it. And lastly, just make sure your notifications and your distractions, phones, TVs, anything around you are turned off, and just to really block off this hour to absorb all the information that Peter has to give us. And without further ado, we have Peter Walsh. As I've mentioned, I've had the pleasure of attending one of his sales training workshops. And wow, when I took this training, it was really fascinating to understand my results. And it really helped explain why I tended to gravitate to the certain roles that I had, and why I shied away or just, escaped from the roles that I've had in the past, and how it all came together to where I am now. So it's really awesome to have this tool, and I think I'm at the place now where I really want to foster those core energies, and you'll learn a little bit more about all of that through Peter. Peter, as you've probably read from the email, Peter's had 20 plus years of business experience doing workshops in all parts of the world, right, Peter? And also a recent friend of mine that I've met in the last year, who has no idea about this, but has had a real impact in how I think today. So welcome, Peter. Take it away.
Thank you, Anna, so much. And thanks, Catherine, for giving me the chance to talk about this. Great to be with you all virtually. I'm, just so you know, in lovely San Anselmo, looking across a beautiful view of the mountains and some trees, and in a lovely office. So thanks. Yeah, so what is the CVI, the Core Values Index? That's what CVI stands for. And what is the secret to an entrepreneurial success? I love that that was the promotion for this seminar. You're probably wondering, okay, everybody has a business secret. What's theirs? Well, the secret in this case is actually incredibly simple. It's like ridiculously simple. And here it is. The secret to really being a great entrepreneur is knowing who you are. And I'm not kidding, like really knowing who you are. What I mean by that is knowing where your attention naturally gets drawn to, knowing what it is you're good at, what it is you want to contribute to any particular situation. Who are you when you walk in the room? And knowing what also you're not so interested in, what your attention is not on, what you're really not drawn towards. Because, let's face it, when we're in roles, as Anna was sharing, that we're not really cut out for, or we don't have the energy for, we can really mess things up. And we don't really have much fun, too. We can, it can be a real struggle, as I found. And I wanted to just quickly share my own story. I was working with a business consultant who also uses the CVI in her work. And I had owned a jewelry store, retail jewelry store in downtown San Francisco, in the kind of thick of retail, luxury retail, a very nice, fine jewelry gallery. And I'd been running it for about 6 years, successfully in many ways. It was a good business, and I'd won some awards, but I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy. I was happy doing certain things during the day, working with customers, training my employees. I love that. But a lot of the rest of the part of me was just not enjoying myself. I was really suffering. doing all kinds of tasks associated with business owning. Business owning was just not coming easily. It wasn't fun. The administrative stuff was really hard. Analyzing reports, looking at profitability, all that stuff. A lot of the other things of running a small business were just, I didn't like it. And I was suffering, and this consultant said, I'm going to give you the CBI. I'm going to give you a simple assessment. I want you to take it. So I did. And she called me up literally right away afterwards. And she said, oh my God, no wonder. You are a born teacher. You're a helper. Like, you need to be in a role where you're interacting with people and teaching them and uplifting them and nurturing their own core values. And, that makes total sense to me. You're spending 75% of your time running your business. That's not going to work for you. Well, the last 2 years, actually 3 or 4 since I did it, have been about transitioning to my new work, which now you get to see me doing what I really love to do, which is being with people and helping them and training them in sales. So now I'm a full-time consultant and training people how to be themselves naturally and authentically in the selling environment, but also helping them figure out what's the best work for them to do. And so I sold my jewelry store, and I'm out from under it, and I can tell you I'm a heck of a lot happier. So this knowing who we are, knowing what are our core values is really central to this. And so I'll start by saying each of us is made up of a unique combination of energies, or we can call them core values, that we are kind of wired to want to contribute in our life, in our work. And I use that word wired specifically because it's like these are the tendencies that we're born with, the innate expressions of our being that we want to contribute regularly in our work, in our life, in our family. Because when we're contributing those values, when we're in a place, when we're in a role where we can contribute that, we naturally are happy. We live a fulfilled life. We're in the flow. And things are easy for us, and I feel a sense of like real satisfaction. But the reality is, and this is what's so amazing, is that most of us in this country, at least, are not engaged in our work. Because we're not in roles that are aligned fully with who we are. So I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. But so those of you who've taken the CBI, I'm assuming that you've had a chance to read a little bit about yourself and kind of go, oh, that's interesting. I hope it's been helpful. And we'll get a chance a little bit later to take some questions about it. But I want to tell you, again, a little more about the CBI and why it was developed and who developed it. So the CBI was developed by a guy named Lynn Taylor, who's a Seattle businessman. He was a fantastic master turnaround consultant. He would basically go into companies and turn them around when they were underperforming or they were not doing well. He'd go in and management consult and change things around and get them focused on their core mission and all the kinds of management things that a good consultant would do. And they did well. He was able to get them back on their feet. But interestingly enough, invariably, he found that the same companies were coming back to him about a year or two later with a lot of the same complaints. And he just was puzzled by this. What's the deal? Why isn't this working? And so he was really puzzled by this phenomenon, and it became his complete life's work to find a lasting solution. And so he began studying people and the roles that they have in work. He specifically studied psychology and anthropology and a bit of sociology as well. And he read a book that really spoke to him by Abraham Maslow, which is called The Psychology of Being. And you might have heard of Abraham Maslow because he's the guy that did the Pyramid of Needs. Maybe in high school or in college you studied that. We'll look at it in a few minutes. But it's the hierarchy of needs that we need to fulfill in order to live our lives successfully and in a fulfilled way. But in this process of research, Lynn discovered that anthropologists had this data which he just couldn't argue with, and that is that over thousands of years, anthropologists had found that people over and over again in tribes and in villages and in all communities all around the world, they tended to group themselves into 4 distinct groups, and this happened over and over again. And it's because those people wanted to gravitate towards the roles where they could naturally contribute what they had for the village or the society. And that way the group could function effectively and the village would thrive. And so he inquired into these groups, and I want to tell you what they are. And this will make a lot more sense when we look at the actual four quadrants of the 4 core values. The first group of people in these villages was a kind of power-based person who wanted to build things, to make things with their hands, to do things, to be the soldiers. They were like the builders, essentially. We call them the builders. Another group were people who were knowledge-based. They really looked and thought through what's going on in this village, in this world. They tended to keep track of how much food they had, how much needed to be stored, where were they, what's their location, where do they need to move if they need to move, what are the resources they need to survive. They were really paying attention to the safety of the group and concerned about that. And quite honestly, they would also, like at night, they might be the people who banked the coals. Like they would save some of the coals from the night of the fire being burnt at night so that in the morning they had coals to start up the fire in the morning. That's where the term banker came from. So they were the bankers. So you have builders and bankers. Another group was a kind of love-based person. And I want to qualify that word love because it means a lot of things to lots of people. But I'm saying love in the sense of wanting to nurture and help others and care for others. They were literally the ones that really cared about the well-beings of others, about creating good relationships with other tribes, being kind of the diplomats. There were also teachers. They were the ones that really cared for the welfare of the people. And they were also the traders. They tended to be the ones who represented other villages, for example. So we would refer to them as the merchants, the love-based merchants. The last group was a group of people who were wisdom-based. And they were people who were good at observing a situation objectively and thinking through how to solve a problem or what direction to go in. Coming up with a new idea for a tool or for something that was needed in the group. They were also the kind of wise people who could solve problems with conflicts between people. They were able to stand kind of outside of things and deliver wisdom. So they were wisdom-based people, and we would call them the innovators. So those are essentially the 4 groups that these anthropologists identified. The power-based builders, the knowledge-based bankers, the love-based merchants, and finally the wisdom-based innovators. So what made these communities healthy and vibrant and stable and balanced was that these people held roles that matched their dominant energies or their core values, what they were naturally drawn to contribute to their particular communities. So what Lynn did with this information from the anthropologists was create an assessment where he would ask people to identify words that they felt they identified with. And what that would give him was an accurate picture of how much energy they have in each of these 4 areas. Because each of us has energy in those different 4 areas. It's not like we only have it in 3 or only in 2, but we have it in all 3, in all 4. But most of us have a dominant 2. Valuable to us. They're essentially like the purpose for our being, to put it in a different word. And when these purposes are expressed regularly, right, they give us a deep sense of satisfaction and joy because we're doing what we were meant to do. So the last piece about the CVI is that obviously this has huge impact for the business community and the business world. The Gallup organization, some of you may already know, has done some extensive studies on job satisfaction and productivity in the United States. And they've done many studies that show roughly 75% of all of the workers in this country are disengaged from their work. They're probably not in the right role. Only 25% say consistently that they are engaged, they love their work, they feel like it fits for them. So, wow, I mean, if you think about it, that is a huge problem. I mean, that is an enormous problem and a huge opportunity. If we were to get people into roles that were better suited for their core values, where they can really contribute what they were meant to contribute, holy Moses. I mean, we're talking about increasing productivity wildly. So this is a revolutionary assessment in that we can use it to really make a difference in the workforce. And that's what Lynn Taylor's essentially been doing. He's been working with companies now. Now the companies that he's come to, once he gives the assessment, the CVI, to all of the employees in a given company that he works with. And guess what? They don't come back.
I have a question, Peter. Sorry, you're midstream there. I have a question from one of our participants. The Myers-Briggs assessment, how does that compare to the CVI?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The Myers-Briggs is basically situational, and so it's more personality-based. It's actually called a personality test. And it's also valuable, but it's not nearly as accurate because, again, we oftentimes will shift how we respond to questions based on what we think is being asked of us, or what we think people are looking for. So it does not tend to be as accurate. The Myers-Briggs, I think, is like, again, 75% accurate, and that's taken within 90 days, not a year. So it really is a different beast altogether.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So again, and before we get into actually showing you the CVI, the core values, for an entrepreneur, knowing who you are, knowing like what is it that I most want to contribute in business, in my life, is crucial. What motivates you? What is it that, some people haven't really, it's hard to tell that. But if you can have a clear picture of what your dominant core values are, especially 1 and 2, then you can more easily find a role or take up the roles which allow you to express your best and highest contribution. Because that's, in a sense, what we want to be doing. We want to have the chance to contribute who we are. And we also want to surround ourselves with people in our team who would complement that. If we're not good in the banking area, we want to bring on people who have that core value. If we're not a big time problem solver, we need to have somebody who really wants to contribute that. So we create a team in our business team that functions in a really synergistic way. All right, so let's take a look now. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to actually go through some slides, and I'm going to explain in quite a bit more detail about 4 different core values. And as you look at the slides, if you're a merchant builder, for example, you're going to want to look at, in particular, pay a lot of attention to the merchant and the builder descriptions. That will tell you quite a bit about yourself. And for the other ones that are not your dominant ones, that's okay. Just you want to be familiar with them. All right. So let's look at the core values, and we'll look at how they fit into our life. So
that looks great. Yeah, I see it. Perfect. Yep.
This is so the core values, as you can see on the top left, is what it looks like. You've got your builder, your merchant, your innovator, and your banker. And this just says, it's Revolutionary Core Values Index. Was developed by Lynn Taylor. He's the president of Taylor Protocols, and that's the name of his company. And again, it's the first human assessment that characterizes and actually quantifies the innate, unchanging human nature that Abraham Maslow identified in his seminal book, Psychology. We'll look at that. So his mission, Lynn's mission in life, essentially is putting every person in the right seat, doing the right work. So that's essentially what his job is. That's what his mission is. So this is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Some of you, again, are going to be familiar with this. Down at the bottom, we've got to satisfy our physiological needs first: breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, right? Then after that, our sense of safety, the safety of our body, some way of remuneration, employment, safety of our resources, of our family, a sense of health, our property. And then above that, love and belonging. There's a sense of that we want friendship and family and sexual intimacy. So that comes beyond. And then beyond that, we would need a sense of self-esteem, confidence, and achievement, respect for others. And then lastly, self-actualization, which would include morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving. This top triangle here is what Lynn Taylor wanted to focus on through the CVI. So the next slide is, okay, so how do we self-actualize? Well, in Lynn's point of view, first you start with knowing who are you? Essentially, like, what are your core values? What are the core values and the energies that you have? Because that's the basis of all of it. On top of that, of who you are, is what you are. The talents and the skills, the intellect, the competencies that you have that express who you are below. Once those two are clear, then in a sense, your job is to find your right role in life, or your calling, how you want to participate in your life. After that, you you really see, what am I interested in? What are my gifts, my passions? Beyond that, it's once I've established my passions and what I want to do, what's the degree of impact? Is it a small number of people that I'm going to be impacting, or is it a large number? Am I, somebody who's going to be on a much larger stage or interacting with lots of people, or just a few? And then the next step is literally creating a place where you're contributing your best and highest contribution. This is what gives meaning to our lives. It gives meaning to and satisfaction, doing the real world work for the right reason. And really that leads to a peak experience. If you think about those moments when you were doing something you just totally love, you're in the zone. You lose a sense of time. You're doing a project that you're totally made out to do, and you feel totally taken up. It's like it uses your whole being. You don't even know what time it is. You're just moving, and you're just speaking and doing, and it's just you're in the zone. Essentially, this is the idea of knowing your core values and then aligning the tasks that you do day to day with those core values. That is what you can achieve this peak experience of really deeply satisfying your purpose in life. So let's look a little further. I said, each of us has a unique recipe, right? If you look at the person on the left, it kind of looks skewed. Okay, she's a strong innovator. She's also a banker. She's a bit of merchant too, but she's a weak builder. The person in the middle, the guy with the glasses, he's a really strong merchant. He's also an innovator. He's got some builder, and he's a bit of a banker too. But you can see each one of the CVIs is kind of unique. It has a unique look because we're skewed towards usually two or more of the dominant core values. All right, so now we're going to look into some more detail about the core values. As I said, the builder, it is in the top left, merchant is in the top right, banker bottom left, and the innovator. So we're going to go through these one at a time. If you're a builder and you're predominantly your core value is a builder, your core value is going to be power. Essentially, I mentioned that before in the anthropology I was talking about. Builders have a powerful sense of themselves, of their effective agency, and they want to make things or build things or do things. That's just who they are. That's how they express themselves. So they're catalyzed. So their personal energy is applied to making a positive difference. And it's catalyzed by faith. They just know. They just know they can make stuff. And if they make it and it doesn't work, they just make another one. They make it, or they change it. They're driven by the desire to make things and build things. And the faith is, I know what to do now, and I know what to do. And I will know what to do. So let's see, so a little more to know about the builder. Their conflict strategy, like they tend to be, when their power gets confronted or thwarted, they tend to intimidate. So if you're a builder, you may relate to this. You might notice that as an energy of intimidation arises. We're not going to go into a lot of detail about this, about each one of these, but it's just enough for you to know these particulars about each of these. The contribution to the team is action, results, right? It's very practical oriented. The learning strategy of a builder is basically to decide it and do it. That's pretty clear. So this gives you a kind of picture of the builder and who they are and what motivates them and why. So now we'll move on to the merchant. The merchant, as you might remember, is his or her core value is love. It's not love in the romantic sense, but love in the nurturing of the core values in oneself and others. Really wanting to uplift others, wanting to help them whatever way they can, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a guide, wanting to help the welfare of the group by extending out with other groups, diplomacy. So there's a deep caring about relationship and others and uplifting others. Many of you, I noticed, who did take the CVI are strong merchants. I happen to be a very, very strong merchant. My CVI is really skewed towards this quadrant. So the merchant is catalyzed by truth, and that's the truth that we know the way things are. We can sense when people are being authentic. We know that truth very clearly for ourselves. Our conflict strategy, well, when our sort of love or our desire to help others gets thwarted, we tend to manipulate the situation somehow, or we get emotionally manipulative. That's how we, a lot of the times, address conflict. Our contribution to the team, again, is nurturing relationships and also holding a vision for how things can be, how people can be, how great they can be. It's very uplifting sometimes to be around a merchant who's got a strong vision for a business or for themselves or for others. Their learning strategy is, guess what? Talking and listening with others. Very straightforward. They love to talk and they love to listen. So that gives you a picture of the merchant. Let's see here now. Move on to the next. The innovator. Anybody remember that? The innovator is motivated by? Core value there is wisdom. Wisdom, that sense of deep knowing, as opposed to knowledge. Wisdom is like that kind of inner knowing of what's right and wrong, what is workable, what is going to serve. And so it's that wisdom to see the way things are and also know what to do about it. And an innovator is catalyzed by compassion, a sense of kind of sensing a relationship with, or at least with what is in front of them. Compassion for others, compassion for a situation. So what they do with that compassion is they remain observing and curious and inquisitive into understanding what's going on. Catherine is a very strong innovator. She's very interested in, how does this work? I want to know more. I want to learn about that. She's a very strong innovator. Her conflict strategy generally would be to sort of interrogate. If she gets feeling uncomfortable, she might want to ask a lot of questions. And that tends to be the conflict strategy, to interrogate the situation or the person in front of her. However, the contribution that she makes to the team is solutions. Innovators are great at creating solutions for teams, for something that needs a solution. And they assess and they take their time and then they come up with a solution. Their learning strategy, again, quite obviously, is to assess and then to solve. The core value of the banker. Let's move on to the banker. Anybody remember that one? The core value is knowledge. Now that's more in the intellectual sense of knowledge, or the empirical knowledge that they use to analyze. They want to know it's the how and the way of things. How much time do we have? How much resources do we have? What time of day is it? What's the calendar? They're driven by a need for safety and for equality. And so they're catalyzed by justice, a sense of justice. Like, we want to make sure that everyone has what they need in this village. I'm going to ensure that. I want everyone to thrive. So the banker its core value is knowledge and is driven in a sense by a sense of justice and by fairness. So they use the knowledge that's available to uplift the situation. Their conflict strategy tends to be a kind of they tend to remove themselves and be judgmental without really necessarily expressing it. Because they're fearful too, or worried that things are going to go in the wrong way. So they may become judging of the situation. Their contribution to the team, though, is a kind of sense of conservation, being able to make do with what's needed to, survival, and really giving quality information in a particular situation. They can analyze data like amazing. One of the programmers on this team is a really strong banker. He's able to look at large amounts of data and see the patterns, and he's a good banker. Okay, so their learning strategy is, no surprise, reading and analyzing. So now we've basically looked at all four of the core values, and so I want to, now we want to take some questions, especially if you have questions about your own strengths and what you've learned if you've taken the CVI. But before we take the questions, you can formulate your questions right now. I just want to look over the 6 contributions types. So the builder, who's driven by power, and the merchant by love, they tend to be different in that power, the builder and the banker, are driven by practical knowledge. So they contribute things that are very practical. They build things, or they analyze things, or they give information. Whereas the merchant and the innovator, the love and the wisdom, are much more creative in what they contribute. So that's important to know about yourself. Also, another type of contribution is the power. The builder and the merchant tend to be intuitive in what they contribute, whereas the banker and the innovator tend to be thought-based. They contribute cognitive ideas. So those are 2 different kinds of contributions that each of those groups make. Finally, a power-based person, the builder and the innovator, they really like to work. They're comfortable working independently. And whereas the banker and the merchant, they tend to like to be with other people, and they thrive more in working in community. So these 6 different types of contribution are also part of the CVI. If you the numbers, if you get the full detailed report of the CVI, it doesn't come with a free one, but with the expanded version, it's a long 15-page report. It gives you the scores for all these different kinds of contributions as well, so you have a really clear picture of where your strengths are, both in your cognitive ability, your creative, your practical, your community, and your independent energy. So
that's great. Peter?
Yes.
I have a few questions building up here. Is now a good time to ask those questions, or did you want to finish the last slide? And I also wanted to do a time check. We have about 10 minutes left with a few questions here. Okay, so let me read it off. When you get the results and you see the order of the title, does the order of the title on the result matter? Like innovator, builder?
Yes,
yeah. So
if you're an innovator builder, that means your strongest core value is your innovator, and your second is your builder. They're done in the order of their numeric value. If you want to know the actual numeric value, you can upgrade to the more detailed report, and it gives you a much more detailed report on all the numbers and the scores difference between the scores of each, which in a sense shows you the real numeric score differences. But just with the free report is great because it gives you a clear picture of, okay, this is my top one, here's my second one, third, fourth.
Interesting. And I have another question here. So as I understand, the way to see this is, and this is my own question, is that it's kind of your wiring.
Yes.
What happens if you don't like not just your results, but how you're wired? Is this a deterministic thing where like you're just wired and that's your fate and therefore there's no way you can ever change or shift, or is that not how it works? Like, how do we shift, or how do we change if let's say we don't like, or we wanted to be more innovative or something like that, or we wanted to fall more in the category of innovator? How does all of that work out?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. So first of all, generally speaking, if there's something about the CVI that doesn't quite fit with you, that's okay. It's interesting because a lot of times innovators who are strong innovators don't even like the process of taking the CVI because it forces them to ask questions of themselves which they don't like. And that's typical of an innovator because they really want to observe and they want to figure things out first. They want to know how this works. But to answer your question, I think it's actually a question of exploring what is the resistance to that particular energy that a person has. I mean, I'd love to talk to whomever has that question, just spend a few minutes with them. I'm happy to do that, by the way. Anybody who's taken a seminar, you're welcome to call me and talk to me a little bit about your result, and because then I can help you sort of see that it not as if you don't like something or you're not comfortable in a particular core value, that's okay. It may just be that you haven't discovered, in a sense, the right way, the manifestation of that core value.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, another question here. I'm going to just read it off. My results said I was a merchant innovator. One of the supposed traits of an innovator is that they thrive on ongoing problem solving and ergo hate to complete things. Hating to complete things is not me at all. Am I misinterpreting hating to complete things? Also, the lack of attention to detail also does not apply to me. So how can we make sense of those results if it feels like it doesn't quite fit yourself?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I think what that in particular means is just that the aversion to completing things is more that innovators are really comfortable in this observing, creative curiosity. That sort of, if it's ended, then there's a stopping. Do you follow me?
I think so. Yeah, I can see that.
And I think that that's simply just that they like that process of observing and creating to be ongoing. And I just want to say, like, if there's certain things that you've read in the report that just you think, oh, wow, that's not me, that's totally all right. This isn't meant to be for everything to be spot on. But it is generally, the point is to give you a sense of what it is that motivates you, what is it that you like, that you find. And it could also be that you really need to take some time and explore, well, what does this mean? Like, how could this look for me? How could I express this core value? Because many of us haven't been connected deeply in our work. Again, I was pointing out, like 75% of people are not doing the work that, in a sense, they're meant to do. And so it's been frustrating. And they haven't been introduced to something that really gives them that sense of wow, I'm doing the right thing.
Right. So that leads to the next perfect question, which is, now that we've established or we have this great understanding of who we are, does now the CVI itself kind of extract those things or suggest those things that you may or should do? Or is that more for your own work to do? Like, how do you get to the next step? Yeah. I know I'm merchant builder or innovator builder. What are the next steps after realizing?
Right. Well, the next step would be to work, if you'd like to work with somebody where you can look at what are the tasks in my day. What is it that I actually do? And really like list them out and see which ones correspond and are aligned with your dominant core values and which ones aren't. Because that will give you a very clear picture of what is going to, in a sense, fulfill you. If you can begin to change those roles, give some of those tasks or roles to other people and take on ones that are going to be much more fulfilling. This is a process of essentially aligning your life more and more over time with who you are, with these values that you want to contribute. And that's, for example, what it's taken me 4 years since I took the CVI first. So it's not something that happens overnight. But if you're willing to do the work, it's magical what it does for you.
I have another really interesting question about the CVI itself, and we'll wrap it up after a couple more questions here. We have about 4 minutes, but it's interesting. So you have a CVI test. How does that type of testing deal with, say, when you're answering the questions? Oftentimes our psyche will answer the questions of how we think or how we feel we should aspire to answer or aspire to be, rather than answering it exactly as is. So there's that tendency that tests can be skewed because of that that phenomenon where you're like trying to answer based on what you aspire versus what really is. How does the CVI approach or address that skew or that issue?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good question. I'm imagining too that the person who's asking the question may be a strong innovator too, because this is often a question that they have. Generally, the CVI has been set up to be so simple that a fifth grader can take it. Literally, a fifth grade English level can take it effectively. And because it's a short thing, it's only 10 minutes long. It's only 36 questions with 72 options. It's just meant to be your gut. Answer the question based on just what you see, not trying to think it out. You do it as quickly as you can, essentially, to get the most innate results. And most people, for most people, it's really, really accurate. Not some people read the report and they're like, "Oh God, is this written by my brother?" I thought that would be done. And some people not. Not everybody.
More question. I believe that. Let's see. I was hoping that you could talk a little bit more about thriving in a community versus thriving as an individual. How does this assessment approach that difference? Community versus individual.
Yeah, that's great. So if you remember from that slide, the builder and the innovator, they just tend, because of who they are, to be a little more comfortable doing stuff on their own, doing projects on their own. They can write on their own. They can make stuff on their own. They don't need to rely. They like to not rely on other people necessarily, because just who they are. And relationship just isn't as strong a thing for them. So they can work really well on projects by themselves. Whereas the merchant and the banker, because of their relationship with community, because they like to contribute and make a difference with others, whether it's for the sake of safety and conservation with the banker or nurturing others like the merchant, they're just wired to be comfortable in those community situations, whereas the others, they're just not as interested in that. It's not something that they need to have. I hope that's makes it clear. Yeah. Question.
Was that clear? Sorry, if you can ping me if I was able to ask the question properly. Yeah.
I'm also happy to talk to that person.
Okay. Yeah, no. Okay, wait, let's see. So, okay, let's say you are a merchant innovator. Can you do both? Like, can you?
Yeah, the point is that when you're a merchant innovator, it means, and if your score is close together, it means you can fairly easily move one to the other.
I see. Okay.
And one informs the other sometimes.
Gotcha.
As you get further away in core values between one and another, it becomes harder to move into that energy.
Yeah.
But so that's
interesting. Okay. Yeah, I get it. It looks like we still have a lot of questions, but the hour is done. And Peter, how can we reach you most in order to get more in depth about the CVI?
Sure. I would say just shoot me an email at peter@boominggroup.com.
Okay.
MINGROUP.com.
Perfect.
Or you can reply to one of the emails. Yeah, just email me, and if you send me your phone number, I'll just give you a call and we can set up a time.
Yeah.
I'll also show you how, if you want to get the more in-depth report, which is really worth it. It's the best. It's about $50, I think, and it's just the best $50 you can spend, because you will learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's not necessary, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
If they want to talk to me, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to. I love this, as you can see. I'm totally turned on by it, and it's very valuable.
Yeah. Perfect. Peter, thank you so much for spending this hour with us here at Booming Group to deliver this training. And again, for everybody out there who is still interested in learning more about this material, specifically the CVI assessment, don't hesitate to email Peter at peter@boominggroup.com, and I did write that in the chat space there. And also, if you're ready, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or looking to expand your business and really want to be able to align these findings with your work and try to figure out how to build a business that accounts for your values, go ahead and email Peter at the Booming Group as well, and he'll be able to direct you to us at the Booming Collective.
Yeah,
and
give a half an hour of my time too, just to give you a sense of what's possible.
Yeah, perfect. Kathy, do you have anything to add before we officially close out here?
No, I just thank you, Anna. Thank you, Peter, so much. I wanted to add, like, you also will be happy to do this assessment with teams, correct?
Yeah.
Or organizations.
Yeah, like the whole Booming Group, everybody in the Booming Group had it done, and it really helps you understand the difference between people and what they're focused on. It just is so helpful to a team setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I would like to add is that it's amazing how, like, even if there are like multiple options or ways that we can get to know more about ourselves, like what I really enjoy is that when we are in the process of like building the operational part of the business in either Booming Group or Booming Collective, or when we are working on financials or marketing, or even in the technology development, it's like you will be amazed how like these values really can make a huge difference in how we do that. So
yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions about any of this. I'm Anna again, and you can reach me at anna@boominggroup.com.
And for those of you who didn't take this CVI, take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go take it. It's fascinating. The results are fascinating. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks again. And we'll be sending a recording of this video out to everybody who registered shortly after this. So have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.